2,500 US troops were due to have pulled out of Afghanistan this week, the beginning of the end of America's war in the country. It's part of a deal signed between the Trump administration and the Taliban in February last year, according to which it's been agreed that all foreign forces will leave Afghanistan this spring. Peace talks are taking place between the Afghan government and the Taliban, but it's unclear if and when they might result in a resolution. All this comes against the backdrop of a significant surge in violence. Dozens of Afghans are being killed every day. The conflict has resulted in acute poverty and hunger. There are fears that once all international forces leave, the Taliban might be back in power in the country. I met Afghanistan's Vice President Amrullah Saleh and began by asking him if this was the right time for US troops to be leaving.
We believe the mission is not accomplished, but if they decide to leave, we respect their decision.
But you wouldn't be asking for them to stay?
Not necessarily. We would ask them to respect their agreements with us. They have signed a strategic partnership agreement with us, and they have signed bilateral security agreement with us. Based on that, they have to give a notice to the Afghan government and work with the Afghan government on proper and disciplined exit.
But they don't seem to be doing that. The troops withdrawal announcement in November was premature. Those troops are leaving this week. What would you like to say to the US?
Well, you asked me if I would ask them to stay. I would say we would go to the legal documents which are between us as two states. But as a global power, they have been generous with us, both in terms of financial assistance, security assistance. Should they decide to leave anyway, the realistic question is, can we do anything beyond asking no?
What do you mean when you say that they're leaving before accomplishing the objectives they set out?
Taliban have not separated themselves from Al-Qaeda. Even after the US envoy signed an agreement with them in Doha, in which the Taliban committed to properly separate themselves from Al-Qaeda, months later, with assistance of US, together with them, we killed one Al-Qaeda leader in Ghazni. He was inside a Taliban command compound. We killed two Al-Qaeda members, both on the blacklist of the CIA in Helmand. They were again embedded with the Taliban, which means without putting a proper counterterrorism verification mechanism, just accepting the verbal assurance of the Taliban that they won't be with the global terror networks, it will be a mistake. That's one. Secondly, the question is not the fate of Afghanistan. The question is the fate, reputation, and standing of the Western civilization. They came to assist a small country to prevail against terrorism, against radicalism and Al-Qaeda affiliates. They should ask themselves the question, what was the mission and is that accomplished? Both, if we put a common checklist, the mission is not accomplished.
But even as you say that the Taliban has links to Al-Qaeda, your government is also speaking to them right now in Doha.
Right. We are not taking it as easy as the US negotiating team. That's why the Taliban hate us. Because we fly in their face hard evidence of where they are working with global terrorist networks, where they are siding with regional terrorist networks, where they have drug factories, and how they are lying to the Afghan people and to the world. Let me, for example, clarify to you what one of the most difficult agendas of our talks with them. We say sovereignty belongs to the people, is vested in the public, and it is expressed through elections. Taliban says sovereignty belongs to God, and God entrusts it to the most pious person. If you decode their message, they are pursuing a clerical dictatorship. So agreeing with Taliban is agreeing to installation of a clerical dictatorship. No one can impose that on us, no one. With or without the world, we will not sell our souls. We will resist. But in Afghanistan, there has been a massive investment of the whole world. It's not just material investment, it's emotional investment, it's political investment, it's reputational investment. Why shall we sacrifice it to appease a terrorist group? Our aim to talk to the Taliban is to offer them a chance of becoming mainstream and leave violence. But we are not providing them easy terms as the US negotiators had offered them. No.
So you think the US has made a mistake by trusting the Taliban?
I think the way they conducted the talks with the Taliban, the outreach itself was not a mistake, but the massive concession so far given to them was a mistake. The US delegation came to us, they swore to every holy scripture that if you release these 5,000 people, based on these assurances, there will be no violence, but the Taliban, in order to protect their prestige with their fighters, they will not announce it. We told them at the highest level that this is our intelligence, and it indicates otherwise. If we do this, violence will spike. Violence spiked. Why did we give that concession? In return for absolutely nothing.
So again, what is it that you would like to, because there's a new US administration that's coming in later this month. What would you like to say to them?
We want the United States to define its interest. What is the interest of the United States? We will respect that definition. We are begging no one. We are thankful to everyone for their assistance, but we are begging to no one. Afghanistan was not born on September 12, 2001. We were a nation before September 11, 2001 as well. So we are grateful, we remain grateful to their assistance. But the fate of my country does not hang on the last US military helicopter.
So it makes no difference to you if they all leave?
No, it does. It does. But I am not going to beg any power to stay if it's not in their interest to stay.
How worried do you think global power should be about the threat of Al-Qaeda?
Very deeply. Very deeply. If they withdraw prematurely, they can put any title on their withdrawal and exit. But there is also a title that the terror groups will put on their withdrawal: defeat, surrender, and escape. It's up to them to choose. If we prevail and we have a settlement, it's one thing. But if we don't have a settlement and they leave, the other side will call it defeat.
How strong are Al-Qaeda in the country today?
It's not about their strength, it's about their quality. Al-Qaeda did not send 17 battalions to the United States. They sent 17 bombers. So I think it's the quality of Al-Qaeda presence. It's those small cells which are allowed to operate, train, have a breathing space, have a territory. They are still embedded with the Taliban. So if you talk about numbers, that's always deceptive. It's not about the numbers. If Al-Qaeda sees that the Taliban are again prevailing, they will celebrate it. And the Taliban have not declared separation from Al-Qaeda. Show me the text. It's not there. What they say to their fighters, they say, United States is withdrawing. They need some type of a statement. We will give them. but we will not stop violence. We will not stop fighting. We will not stop jihad. We don't need a jihadist state anywhere in the world. Nowhere. Especially if it comes, God forbidden, by kicking the Western civilization and the whole world out. Do you think that endangers me and my people, or it endangers the whole global order? So that's why calling this an inter-Afghan negotiations or an Afghan problem is absolutely naivety and baseless.
What are the status of the peace talks between you and the Taliban? Are you really hopeful that there will be a power sharing agreement at the end of it?
What is the status of the talks? The Taliban completely misinterpret their agreement with the Americans. They think the world has two superpowers, Washington and the Taliban. That is how these talks with US is interpreted by the Taliban. So bringing them back from the sky to the earth and telling them you are a group takes time. Plus, Taliban, at best, when polls have been conducted, secretly, half secretly, or openly, have never enjoyed more than 10% popularity and acceptance in Afghan society. South, east, west, or north. And that should be taken into consideration when we negotiate with them. That's what we are telling them. We say, why are you afraid of election if the population accepts you? Why you are fearing?
The incoming US President, Joe Biden, has, during his campaign, maintained that he would like to leave some US presence here. In his words, several thousand people,
Right.
A counter-terrorism force.
Right.
The deal that the Trump administration made with the Taliban was that all US forces withdraw by spring this year. What would you like to see happen?
My offer, my invitation, whatever you call it, from the US is they define their security interest and share it with us if they think sharing it with us, again, will serve their national interest and security interest. We are no one to tell them what their security interest is. CIA, as the most powerful intelligence agency in the whole world, they know Taliban are an Afghan brand of Al-Qaeda. I don't put this word in their mouth. If they make a crude deal with Al-Qaeda, that's their thinking. I can't stop it, but I am telling them as a friend and as an ally that trusting the Taliban without putting a verification mechanism is going to be a fatal mistake.
So what kind of verification process do you think you will see from the talks that you're holding with the Taliban? Because you're also talking to them at a time when you're saying they're continuing violence.
Right. But we are calling a spade a spade. We are not giving a nice fake title to the Taliban. We say you are terrorists, but you are a reality. We would like to find a solution through talks.
If you were to reach some sort of agreement with them, do you expect foreign countries like, say, the UK to then treat the Taliban like any other normal political group in any other country?
We have one golden line and one golden condition in our negotiations: elections.
That is, that you be allowed to hold elections in the country.
If Taliban went through elections, and if the Afghan people prefer some Taliban leader than myself, I will respect that decision. But I will not sacrifice that right of the Afghan people in the negotiations.
There have been so many attacks on your own life.
Right.
How has that changed your ability to hold talks with the Taliban?
Afghans want peace, and I respect the demand and desire of my people. But when it comes to me as a person, I will endorse peace with the Taliban, but I will never, ever, ever work under the same ceiling with the Taliban. Never.
I just want to ask this to you again because you're repeatedly saying that they're engaging in violence even as the talks are happening.
Right.
You're calling them a terrorist organization. Why then are you at a negotiating table with them? Do you really believe that they will change?
We want to try and give every avenue a chance if this can be settled peacefully. So this is a moral obligation that we are trying to fulfill.
And do you think the US is being foolish by believing the Taliban?
I wouldn't give that a title, but they have to judge it. Have the Taliban honored their commitment? As far as I see the Doha Agreement and I see the situation, no.
Why has Afghanistan struggled so hard to find peace?
Well, it's our location. Of all the things, it's our location. It's a very good location, but it's also frontier of big powers. And we are never left by ourselves. We are never left alone.